All right, guys, welcome to week 3. Um, we're a day late on getting this lecture out to you, but this chapter is really heavy, and so what I thought I was going to really talk about, I scratched, and I decided to kind of go a different route. So basically, what this is going to be kind of a piecemealed. Um, Chapter reflection, and again based on just pure raw experience. And so, but first, what I want to do is I want to address questions from last week's lecture, because I believe that this is the best medium to do so, being that hopefully everybody's actually seeing this video because you're supposed to. So I'm going to flip my screen. I'm not going to share my screen, but if you see my eyes looking around, it's because I'm not on camera anymore and I'm actually responding to questions. So I'm not going to call out any names, but obviously you know what question you posed. The first one that I have here is actually, let's see. Yeah, first one I have here is, how do we keep ourselves from burning out? Now that topic was very, very heavy in my lecture, and I think that it's something that really stands out to a lot of teachers, but we don't think about it if nobody tells us about it. And I can tell you how I keep from burning out is having a very optimistic attitude and staying as positive as possible, because those that burn out, they go from rainbows and unicorns of education, and then they don't allow anything to change as they dip down. We all go through highs and lows. I especially this year, we don't really know what's going on. We're trying to do online learning. We're trying to do face-to-face learning at the same time. And burnout is going to be very prevalent very quick. In fact, I know of a number of teachers who have already, not at my campus, but have already said, I'm done, I'm out, even before we got started. So the biggest, and it sounds very cliche, but the biggest piece of advice I can give you is don't listen to nonsense and stay positive, because you're going to have bad days. In this profession, you will have days, you're going to hear stuff about kids and families that crush you. You're going to cry, you're going to celebrate, you're going to laugh, you're going to do everything in between. But if you allow the negatives that you see and feel control you, you'll burn out without question, without fail. I have seen it where there's bitter teachers that have made their way through simply because they're just bitter people, and they don't want to fail, but they don't want to be successful. It's a very odd dynamic. So I hope that answers that question. So another one that popped up is, how do we prepare for first year? The answer to that is you don't. Rely heavily on your team, wherever you get hired. Rely very heavily on your team and ask questions like crazy. Ask, because there's so many things that go on that if you don't ask, you're going to feel very overwhelmed very quickly, and then go back to the first question. You'll burn out. What are some ways to not lose your passion? Find out quickly that you're doing it for the right reasons. I'm in education to motivate and to honestly change courses of life. And I truly believe that, and I truly have that mentality every single day. Again, I have bad days, but I try to really reflect and focus on the good. And so by doing so, I stay passionate about the motivating factor. How do you motivate students to want to learn? Difficult. That question is very difficult to address. One of the things that I can tell you is build relationships and let them know of your faults and let them know of your successes, and build that professional relationship to where they see the benefit. How can you be a stern and fun here. This one's funny. So, how I can do it is personally, and I say this, but I get told this often. I have a very jovial personality, and I like to joke. I like to have fun, but I take the serious matters serious when they need to be. And how do you be stern? Huge. I'm 6'5", 250 pounds, so it's easy. No, that's terrible advice. I don't like that. No, it's a matter of just setting expectations. Students love structure. They love they kick back, but they absolutely love the structure. What I found is that students desire um, being kept in line, and once they know that you're not going to give, but you're going to laugh with them, you're going to joke with them. But when it's time to be serious, you have to be serious, and if that expectation is established immediately, that's how you can do it. So um, let's see. I think I answered that one. Why is it taking so long to raise the teacher salary? God, I wish I knew. Jeez, it's all legislative deals. Let's see. Stress from working in the education field. So this one, so what are additional ways that we can deal with stress that comes from working in the education field? Also, what do you feel like is the most effective way to use a situation when talking to a passionate or upset parent? If I could answer that, I would be able to solve the world's problems. No, in all honesty, when dealing with parents, I mean, you're dealing with their babies. You're dealing with their, in most cases, hopefully all cases, that their pride and joys, and a lot of times you are the bad guy. And we'll speak about this later on in the semester, but a lot of times you're the bad guy, and they're wanting to know why you're the bad guy. And the biggest piece of advice that I can give you on that is let them vent and be the most effective communicator is the best listener. And that's where you need to take that idea and truly own it. And you let them vent, and you don't encourage them to keep getting mad, but you listen actively, and soon they'll honestly they'll begin to burn themselves out on whatever really bothering them, and you'll be able to then have a conversation. Um, Stress. I don't deal with stress. I don't have stress because I'm very relaxed, and just I deal with situations that come up. I don't overthink things. So I really can't answer that one. That one's tough. I'll think about it though, I promise. Let's see. A few more questions and we'll get on to chapter 2. Stress, underappreciated, underpaid. Why are teachers underappreciated and why are they underpaid? Because the old saying, and I'm going to be 100% with you right now, the old saying is if you can't, you teach. And so we are looked at as, again, I mentioned it, glorified babysitters. We are looked at as those that you couldn't become a doctor, so you became a teacher. What? It's that's kind of where that idea comes from. Um, and it's funny because years and years ago, teachers were held in extremely high regard, not paid for it, but extremely high regard. But then, that's kind of gone away. And I'm not sure that there's a solid answer for that other than um, social changes, which we could go on a full tangent here. We'll talk about that more later on, but that's a tough question. That's a very tough question. Um, Ooh, I like that. When will change occur and be recognized for all the hard work and dedication they put into our future leaders? When we vote for leaders who have that as their um, primary goal. And without being political, because that's not the way that I go. That's the best way I can say that. All right, let's. What do teachers find most demanding of students on average? Dealing with anywhere from 160 to 180 different little personalities. That's the most demanding part. It's the most demanding part. How do we change how teachers are viewed and valued? By being positive role models in the classroom, and it's a generational thing. The saying, it's was it, the coach was asked, "Hey, how do you think the season went?" And the coach said, "I don't know. I'll tell you in 20 years." And the reason why that is said is because it's not a win and loss thing in the classroom, on the field, whatever it may be. It's a matter of what impact did you have on individuals. So if we continue generationally being able to shift thought and shape minds, and not be the teacher that, oh my God, I hate that teacher, but being that teacher that, man, he was hard on us, but I tell you what, I will never forget him. That's how we change mindset. That's how we change that mentality. Are people believing teaching really isn't a career, more of a babysitting gig? Those are internet warriors that sit behind their keyboard and talk about things that they have no clue about, to be honest with you. Let's see, a few more questions. Geez, y'all have a bunch of questions. I love this. About to lose it in front of a class? Man, it's keep in mind that what you're doing has the greatest impact on students, on young minds, than anything else in this entire world. Giving up in front of a class. I had two teachers give up last year. They gave up. They quit. They cried a lot. And they said their reason was, I didn't think it was going to be like this. Pardon me. And one of the reasons why they say that is because they go through an ACP program, and it's alternative certification, and they don't get prepped for actual classroom. That's why I'm not happy about us doing, virtual observations, but it is what it is at this time. So, but again, like I mentioned before, you can be, this is not a pedagogy class. This is not student teaching. So those things will come. A question got asked, I believe, on last Tuesday's WebEx optional meeting of, are we missing out on stuff? You truly aren't, but it is fun to get in there. So, all right, somehow my video cut off, so we're back at it. So we're missing out on being in there, but again, it's not a pedagogy class, so we're cool. One question that I was talking and then it went away is, how can kids get over their frustration, or how can teachers get over or stop frustration or bad moods due to kids? It's literally taking a step back and humbling yourself enough to sit there and go, I'm a teacher. These are students. I don't know their background necessarily. I don't know what they're coming from every single day. I have to be a voice of compassion. I have to be a voice of reason. I cannot be a voice that is going to negatively impact a relationship with the kids. So it's a humbling deal. Take a step back and breathe. Subjects taught. Oh, I don't know much about elementary. I'm gonna have to look at it. Oh, I think I responded to that one. And all right, that is where we are stopping with questions. So that was a bunch. I like that. And so what I want to do is I do want to address those. This chapter is obviously, I want to keep everything within 30 minutes. So this chapter, again, is a little bit different than what we're going to see in the future. It's very heavy. And so there's some things that I just want to, there's takeaways that I feel from my experience are going to be the most impactful for you to really wrap your mind around and really grasp. Because if we're looking at the chapter, man, you're looking at Maslow's hierarchy of needs, you're looking at social development, you're looking at physical development, cognitive development, you're looking at so many different things. And then we get into gender differences and the cultural stages. There's a ton. So again, whenever I was looking at it, I was like, man, what direction am I going to go? Because I need to give y'all something solid based on what you're going to do, what the expectations are in the classroom. So I picked out a few things that we're going to look at. And the very first one is I really want to look at the hierarchy of needs. And I speak on this based on, and I'm kind of really taken away from what the chapter is talking about specifically, but what I want to really make a point of is what students do not get at home, they require at school. And I could leave it at that, and I could just say that. I mean, that's it. If they're not safe at home, and I'm telling you, you're going to be surprised. If they're not, no matter what the socioeconomic status is, if they're not safe at home, if their psychological needs are not taken care of, you become that person. And so becoming that person is one of the most heavy things that you can actually take on as a human being, because they're not your kids, right? And I know a lot of teachers that could care less. And they're obviously not in it for the right reason. But one of the things also that I really want to take away is belongingness. And especially if you're looking in the middle school area, belonging is tough. It also happens in elementary school and especially in high school as well. And so what you need to understand as a future educator is that you have to be these things because you are the structure in their life, right? The breakfast at school and the lunch at school are the meat in these kids' lives a lot of times. And so if they're not being taken care of in this hierarchy of needs, this belongingness, their self-esteem, guess what? You just became that person. And we wear a lot of hats as educators, and that's one of them. And it's hard and it's tough. And we have counselors and we have administrators and whatnot. But the relationship is built within the classroom walls, and you're the first line of defense. So you really have to grasp onto that. Another thing, I mentioned it in our WebEx meeting about, the heaviness of this chapter, and we're looking at development, physically, cognitive, student development, and we're looking at emotional development, character development. There's all these different developments, and big picture is, I'm going to speak to you from the middle school aspect, but it's same as a freshman to senior or kindergartner to fifth grader. The idea that you can have an eighth grader who is sexually active and is drinking and doing drugs on the weekend and partying all night, right next to an eighth grader who is playing Pokemon cards. Those two align in classroom only. They don't align in cognitive development, emotional development, social development. I'm not saying that there is a problem with either, well, maybe a problem with the other one, sorry. I'm not saying that there's something that we really need to point out and go, well, that kid, that's a terrible kid, and that kid's a dork, right? It's understanding how to address those kids and how to build relationships with them and know that you're going to have that extreme, and everything in between, and we have to have the ability to deal with it. And a lot of times teachers don't know how to deal with it, and that causes the frustrations that we talked about in the questions, that causes the burnout, and it causes teachers to be stressed emotionally because we're trying to reach all of these different students, and it's not easy. So one thing that is big nowadays as well is, the chapter speaks about it in well, I guess the second section, we're looking at gender diversities, and we're looking at um, sexual diversities, and all those topics are coming up now in public education that never have before. And so what we have to do is we have to really prepare ourselves and understand that no matter what that student is doing, or that student is going through, or that student is feeling, or that student is uncomfortable with, we have to see that individual as an individual. And your job, it's an oath that you're going to be there. You're going to be an advocate. You're going to be a voice for that student. And you're going to let them know that you're in this because you truly care, you truly love them, and you're there to motivate, build them up so that they can then, really find their own person in the learning process. It's not our job to shift thoughts about who they are, but it's our job to support their freedom of thought, if you will, their critical thinking aspect is to help encourage. So that's a touchy one. So it's a little bit different to actually approach in conversation. Then the chapter moves into multicultural education, and we're looking at ELs, and we're looking at cultural responsiveness, and so let me get real fast. One of the things that I'm going to be honest with you, it pisses me off the absolute most, and I know a bunch of people who've done it, but if we're looking at culture, that's an all encompassing thing. It's not just black, white, brown, yellow, whatever it may be. It's not just religion. It's not just family background. It's not socioeconomic status. It's none of those things. It's all of those things. Okay. It's not an individual deal there. And one thing that I hear a lot, and it irritates me because we cannot, as educators, two things we cannot do. One is push political agendas. That's not something that we should be doing ever, and we should not ignore culture. And so I could go off on this one for a while, but I'm going to tell you one thing. With culture, a lot of times we immediately go to race, and so I'm going to use this as an example for right now. I have teachers that I still work with today, and I have in the past, and they say, "Yeah, no, I don't see color." What? That's weird. You don't see color. Okay. So we're ignoring culture. We're ignoring race. We're ignoring background. Don't be that person. Embrace it, right? Everything that you can do, everything that you can possibly teach, I don't care what subject it is, you can literally take every single culture, every single part of culture. Obviously, we stay a little bit away from religion because of beliefs, and that's a very, very touchy deal. But we can sure as heck dive in and say, this is how they do it in other cultures, or reach how they do this in other cultures. Present on that culture and how they do it. Embrace it. It's. I'll go off on a tangent. I do that a lot. I'm sorry, guys. But just know, don't be that teacher. That's a dumb thing. All right, so then we move into religious diversity implications for teachers. Just up on that, some of that stuff, you can get yourself into a trouble with these different things once you start pushing agendas, and that's just a blanket term for saying that, well, Christianity is where it's at. you better not wear that religious head garb, or you better not pray in class, or you better not have a certain hat on, type of thing. Man, you open up a can of worms for everything. Don't. It's a very open. Going into education, you literally have to be open and accepting and loving to all, even if you don't agree with it. Right? It's plain and simple, and it's embracing, and it's making a point to let that child know that you are here for them, because it doesn't matter, and you're going to support you're going to support, and you're going to educate yourself. That's a deal. Be a lifelong learner. I asked, I have time because I'm going to tell you what, sometimes I just don't have a clue what's going on. I will ask students very simply, and it's not offensive. Never be scared of this. Never be scared. Say, look, I want to learn. Can you tell me about XYZ? Even as, oh, you moved from a different country. I would love to hear about it. Do you mind telling me what your experiences were? Oh, you're that religion. Educate me. Teach me. That's how you build bonds. That's how you don't ignore things. That's how you don't turn a blind eye to that idea of cultural diversity. So hopefully all that made sense. I will ramble on forever, guys. So then we go into intellectual ability and diversity. Guys, I'm going to tell you now, you most likely have it going. You most likely are highly intelligent. I would get this if we got to see each other face to face and do this class. But you're here, you know what you're doing. You're probably of very high intelligence. You will be very shocked at the level of students that you will face or that you will see there, that you will be there to help. But here's the cool thing about that. Everybody learns differently. And the brain, this thing up here, is the most powerful thing in the entire world. It's how we access it and how we use it. And the cool part is everybody has it. And now, unfortunately, there's disabilities from birth. Okay. And that's very unfortunate. But what we have to see as if you're going to be a general educator is that you're going to have students that are at all different levels sitting in the same classroom. You're going to have GT students that are a range of level that's shocking. You're going to have in Sci-Fair, they're K level and on level students that are going to have huge ranges, and we have to understand that if we can access here through understanding diversity, through understanding learning styles, by understanding how the brain actually takes in information and we can convey it to those students, we can change this. And we can change this. And that student that thinks they're stupid, I had a kid, 7th grade, 4 years ago. He was a troublemaker without question, and he was in my class before I became a instructional coach. And he was just sitting back. I'm like, dude, what are you doing in this class, man? He's just sitting back. He's, nah, I'm not doing anything. I'm not doing my work. I said, hey, you do mind stepping outside really quick? And I took him outside, and I talked to him in the hall really fast. I said, hey, man, what's going on? And he let me know. He goes, I'm not doing anything. I said, why, man? What? Why not just complete the assignment for me? It was early on in the year. And they said, well, because I'm stupid. Everybody's always told me I'm stupid. So that's it. Like, come on, man. I said, I've never met you, right? This is right off the bat. I never met you. I don't think you're stupid. And we built a good relationship. He had a lot going on. So it's not like he was able to shift his thought process around. He got in a lot of trouble. But have that thought, right? Have the thought. This is my takeaway. And it's funny because the concluding thoughts that yes, all children can learn. And 100%, I'm going to tell you, and I cut out again. So last final thought. What we have to understand is this is the most powerful thing in the entire world. And we have the ability to help shape and train, if you will, so many brains. And we can make such a huge impact. And I will leave it at that. Hit the discussion, give me a little feedback, and that's it. Read your chapter, check out the what's that thing called? The quiz, and do the quiz, and then you have a little. It's actually a drawing assignment on differences in children. So super easy week. Discussion. There's 2 discussions plus lecture discussions, 3 total, and then you got the little quick drawing assignment. And your quiz. So knock that stuff out. Please email me if you have any questions, and we will talk soon. Grades will be updated here hopefully tomorrow. So, all right, guys. Bye.